Welcome to the Innovation Conversation, a podcast about innovators, both in business and real life. Hosted by myself, Ricardo Pascual, and Harry McDonough. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech. The podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Innovation Conversation. Today we are joined by Tessa Debruyne. Tessa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Ricardo. I'm so excited to be here.
Same, it's a pleasure having you here. Tessa, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Tessa, and I have just recently started my own company, my social first agency called Mid Marketing.
Okay. So how do you get started in your journey? How do you end up, from first gathering all the knowledge, then launching your company? And we actually met at the TikTok event. So
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So, I just started actually working for TikTok about 3 years ago. And I was just, quite fresh in my career. So I was learning a lot very quickly, and I very soon realized that there's actually a little bit of a disconnect sometimes between the account managers and the clients that you're working with. So as an account manager, I took it upon myself back then already to really work with the clients as well in regards to content, and not just give advice on, like product implementations, but really think about what can work and what can go viral, as they say, which is a toughie, but always very fun. Then afterwards, when I was, working in sales for a bit longer, I realized I really missed helping out people with something I'm good at, because I guess I'm quite good at it. And I decided to just try it out for myself. And now I'm working with TikTok again, actually, but it's like working with an ex, but it's very nice to work back with your ex because they see me as kind of like this external expert now, which I'm very happy about, of course.
And was it scary taking that leap from, I guess, a normal paid job to launching your own business?
Yeah, I mean, very scary because my entire life, for the past 3 years was in Ireland, but I'm originally from Belgium. So I was like, okay, I'm moving back in with my parents, I guess, and I'm figuring stuff out from scratch. So, all the friends I still have, my partner still lives there in Dublin. And it's a bit stressful at this point still because I'm just starting out. But very quickly, I did realize when people were reaching out to me that I could bring some value to them. So I'm just gonna go with the flow and, whatever they need, I'm kind of adjusting to see what else I can offer.
What made you take the leap from, I guess, a corporate job to a more, to having your own business?
To be completely honest, I was quite burned out from sales. And I think that was the biggest factor. I was working for LinkedIn at the time, and I realized that even though, nothing wrong with the product, it's a very cool product, LinkedIn, and I still use it every day. I realized that I was not as good at selling it as I was when it came to marketing and advertising, because I just did not have the same connection to it, I guess. So that's when I started realizing, I started questioning myself a lot more, and my self-esteem was getting lower. So when I would even get the results, I would hit the targets, but I was just not enjoying it as much. And that's when I realized, I actually have to do something else. And if I stay in sales, I'm not going to be able to come back to marketing as seriously. So I have to start now.
Interesting. So it's kind of one of those make it or break it moments, right? You needed to...
A little, yeah. A little. Just taking care of yourself first.
Which makes perfect sense. I mean, most entrepreneurs kind of get started that way. They have such a gigantic, itch to scratch that they cannot say no to it. They literally need to scratch it and, launch very successful business afterwards. And now, as you're advising startups in marketing and all that, what are the common mistakes you're finding?
I think a lot of times startups or scale-ups, they just don't really bother with marketing initially, or they're like, oh, yeah, we have Instagram and that's enough, we're active on LinkedIn and people know about us, but that's not enough. Of course, it depends on what your business is, but I think if you're starting a business, let's say in clothing, you really have so much competition out there. And then you're just starting out thinking hey, I have a shirt as well. You have to be a bit more strategic about it. So I think the whole idea of creating awareness sometimes comes last. Well, actually, it should be one of the first things you do when starting out a business.
It's funny because there's a lot of like people doing like TikTok lives and stuff like that where they put on clothes, take off clothes, and that's actually creates a lot of views and a lot of content, right?
Yeah.
It's a good way to get started, I guess.
That's a very fun one, yeah. I think TikTok Live can help a lot. Just in general, being active, having some organic content already out, boosting those, like using Spark ads on TikTok, or, going on Instagram and making a bit more videos and making content. Just like be very active for 2 weeks, like post multiple times for 2 weeks, and you're already gonna see so much more than if you just like post once a week.
What do you do when you're camera shy?
When you're camera shy, well, a lot of times, you can actually hop on some trends without using your own face. Like I myself, I don't like being in front of the camera that much, but I realized like, okay, there's just one person in this company and it's me. So who else is going to do it? So if that's the case, I would say get over yourself. But if you're saying like you're selling products or something, you can always go for content creators, like user-generated content, because then it's going to feel a bit more authentic. You're going to have some good reviews already. And that kind of word of mouth, or that social proofing, as they call it, is actually so valuable, because the best videos on both TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, the best performing videos are people that are just talking to the camera like this, like I'm talking to you right now. So that's something that you have to take into account. And if you're okay with going a bit slower, then yeah, you can just use like whatever you have laying around to kind of make it for yourself, make another kind of video, but it's not going to perform as well.
And what is there a platform that you advise over another, or actually you should make content for all of them and just see where it works better?
That's a really difficult one. So I had it before where a client comes to me and they're just like, yeah, just make content for everything. And I'm just like, God, it's going to be a lot of work, because, you have to really figure out where your audience is. And your audience, a lot of times startups come with the idea of like, oh, my audience or my target audience is everyone. Like, great.
Never,
like 18 plus. Thank you. That's really helpful. Yeah, you just have to really look into where your audience is. So I think if you're looking at a younger audience, maybe you can look at Snapchat and TikTok, while with the millennials, you're probably also looking at TikTok and Instagram. Older generation, of course, is more Facebook. You can kind of just adjust and play all the different social media platforms, but definitely do your research first, because otherwise you're going to get overwhelmed. I myself am overwhelmed because I don't have like a clue right now where my biggest clients will be, as I'm just starting out myself as well. But the first mistake I made is creating a Pinterest account. No, the reason that people want to come to me is probably because they want to be more like creative, and they're not gonna find like my little infographics on Pinterest for that. So yeah, love Pinterest though.
Me too. I'm a big fan.
It's really great.
But then you probably say that create more video content also makes it easier to, I guess, absorb information than just having infographics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually really like infographics so much, but I've noticed that their performance pretty much on all platforms, maybe LinkedIn is still okay, but the performance is just really not that good. So if you want to make infographics for your clients to post on your website yourself, or to use it in blogs for more like SEO content, absolutely. But if you're talking about like real posts, then yeah, you should think more about videos or pictures. But I think pictures are also kind of leaving the scene at this point.
And is it more like when we talk about the products or any products, should we go and show our vulnerabilities to the camera, as founders, or as yeah?
Yeah, like once you're crying, just immediately be like, guys. No, I'm joking. But yeah, like show your vulnerabilities, because that's one of the best things that you can do, is to show people that they're actually buying from a human.
Interesting.
Because you don't want to buy from a brand, you want to buy from other people.
And how do you manage that? Because let's say you have a company and you're just launching out. obviously the founder's journey is very important, but at the same time, you might not want to be, I guess, associated with what you're selling, and kind of you want to keep it on download. So how do you manage that fine balance between, is this too cringe or is this just right to actually talk about what I'm doing right now?
I mean, it's very difficult to get over the cringe, but to be honest, you have to embrace the cringe, because if you don't want to be associated with your brand, with your product, with your service, why would anyone else want to be associated with your brand or product or service? So yeah, embrace the cringe. Embrace it.
Hashtag embrace.
Hashtag embrace.
Is that still a thing, the hashtags, or not anymore?
I don't know. I'm always thinking, like, should I use hashtags or not? And then at one point I realized, like, oh, LinkedIn has hashtags now. I should use them more. So with hashtags, I'm always falling behind, I feel. I know with TikTok, was obviously where my expertise lies still. With TikTok, it's more about the words that you use on the video itself. So if you use like a little bit of words and then you put them out of the screen, they're still going to be read by the algorithm and used. But then otherwise, like the hashtags, I think it's good enough to use words, and hashtags are just good for filler words.
Okay, so the trick for having a successful viral video, and by viral I mean just having a little bit more views, is actually use all the keywords you want on the TikTok Reels.
Oh yeah.
Reels or videos?
Sure. TikTok and Reels. Yeah, that's a really, really good one actually. But you have to think about it. And I don't think about it myself all the time to be like, oh yes, now I have to do hashtag digital marketing, hashtag AI, hashtag this. You're not thinking of it, really. There's so many different ways that you can go viral as well. One of the biggest things is just pure luck. Just be lucky, and everyone just thinks that they're going to post one video and they're going to like, that's not. So, like, every single client conversation I've had already since I started now is them asking me to make them go viral. They're like, you worked at TikTok. Do it. Do your thing. I'm just like, I wasn't able. If I'm not viral myself right now, what makes you think that I can do it? Otherwise, I would already be an influencer somewhere in the Bahamas, but I'm not.
Well, but then you'll be posting different type of content, right?
For sure. I would like drink smoothies all day and just be like, I'm hashtag blessed.
Yeah, and I manifested all this. I just thought about it and it kind of magically happened.
I manifested it with my tarot cards.
Yeah.
Book a reading. I would call everyone like goddess queens and stuff. Yeah, I would be so good at that. But
and then you also need, I think what normally works well, and it's like the first thumbnail, like that first static image, which is always 99% like someone looking very, very sexy, and then the whole video has nothing to do with it whatsoever. And you see this a lot on YouTube. It's like, ooh, girls in bikinis. And then it's like this horrible guy talking for an hour, and there's a millisecond of a girl in a bikini that kind of, that shows up in the frame.
I think you are telling on yourself right now, Ricardo.
I'm literally telling on myself. No, I'm thinking, for example, I follow this guy called Bald and what's it called? Bald and Bankrupt, and he's a travel vlogger, I guess, and he goes on multiple things. What's funny is most of his videos, unless they have like some historical or very important monument, is just a girl in a bikini. You think, oh, interesting, and then you click on it, and of course it's just a guy doing his stuff. So yeah, it kind of works as a hook.
What's the way they used to say it as well? Sex sells.
Sex does sell, yeah. Sex
sells. And girls in bikinis do well, usually.
And look good-looking guys as well, so, both of
exactly.
That work. But, yeah. Which brings me to the biggest question right now, which is hooks. What works as a hook, what doesn't work as a hook, from your experience?
I actually have a funny story about that, because the same thing happened where they asked me at the workshop, and I was so sleep-deprived that I decided to show them. So I'll show you now. A good hook is just...
Really?
I literally just did this.
Yeah, you just slap your hands and that's it. Okay.
Yeah. No, but a good hook is just like something that really grabs your attention, Just be like right now the blog that I posted as well is kind of similar with a hook, right? Like if your startup isn't on social media, you're already losing. And then people are like, oh shit, why? And then they keep watching. But otherwise, if it's gonna be more, physical, where you're like doing this, or I'm grabbing something to eat, like there's a lot of ways that you can kind of use around yourself to create a hook. Like if right now one of my stuffed animals would fall or something and I would grab it, that's already a hook.
And what about, how the videos sometimes always have like this infinite loop? And they just ask a question and then they answer the question, but keep on asking the question over and over again. Do you think that should be the right format for people to post videos in?
I think it's a really cool format. I think it's definitely a fun one to try, if you're able to do it. I think for me, myself, I don't always have the patience to go into like editing that nicely of like, and this is why your startup should do this. And then it starts again, like why your startup should do this. I don't really, yeah. I mean, it's good, but I don't know if you should try it constantly because I think it's a lot of work for your editing. And sometimes it can be more fun to kind of try something else.
There's always a big conversation around very long content versus short content. When TikTok began, it was very short content, 30 seconds max or something like that. Whereas now we can actually watch videos for a couple of minutes as well. What do you think people should actually do? Should they go? And also, how does the algorithm work regarding the length of the content?
So, good question. I would have to check what it is now, but I remember previously it would only be seen as a view if you watched, I want to say 30% of the content already. So then obviously if you're talking about like, if it's shorter, then it's easier for you to get that 30%. I would have to check what it is now. In terms of like the best content or like the long or the short formats, just play with it. I think it really depends on what you want to do. I think the sweet spot would be around like 2 to 3 minutes. I think that would be ideal because otherwise it's going to be a bit too long for people with a short attention span. And Lord knows that TikTok has not helped with that.
No, definitely not.
Like you're like watching TikToks and your series at the same time. And then you're like doing something on your laptop at the same time, right? So you want to be very quick with it, but at the same time it needs to stay interesting. And I think if you have a really good video and you're able to entertain people throughout those 3 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever length you want to pick, I think you can just, if you're saying something valuable, you can use it for 15 minutes.
Interesting. Okay. So something to consider. Now, when it comes to video format, I think that's also not just the length, but also do you record it horizontally, vertically? Obviously, there's specific formats for different platforms.
Yeah.
What do you think actually works best? In the sense that should you create content that only works for YouTube and then crop everything else and put it on TikTok? Or quite on the contrary, should I actually just record horizontally and that's horizontal? No, vertically, and that's it, and then post it on all the other platforms?
I've kind of started very quickly to realize when I started a TikTok that you really need to implement a TikTok first strategy if you want to be able to work it out on all platforms. So if you're thinking TikTok first, then that same video is probably going to work for Instagram. If it works for Instagram, it's probably going to work for Facebook. If it works for Facebook, it's probably going to work for LinkedIn and also like YouTube, the YouTube Shorts. I think that's most relevant right now. Then of course, if you're talking about more horizontal videos for YouTube, I think those are still amazing, but I've seen even on normal YouTube videos that I get advertisements and they're vertical, and it's very interesting to me, like how the advertisements all of a sudden are vertical, even though the video that I want to watch is horizontal or should be horizontal. So I think it kind of works everywhere at this point, the vertical aligning of the video.
Now, when you're a startup and you're starting out, obviously you want to create as much content as possible, but is there any tips or tricks you can give them in terms of their strategy? Like, what are the core basics of creating content?
Purely organic. I would say just try to think about the 3 rules. So the first step is always to grab the attention. So it like, the bunny falling or something. Just grab the attention. Be entertaining. I used to say be entertaining or educational, but to be honest, the educational part, if it's not entertaining, people are going to scroll by because they don't want to hear a whole monologue of you. And then the third part is a call to action. So no matter what, if you're actually a business, you should make sure that there's some sort of way for people to understand that you're a business, that you're not just a random person on the internet, but you're actually also representing something. Because sometimes what I saw is like clients that are doing really well and their content is going so viral, they're doing so well. And it's just the intern who's like doing great, but at the same time, they're not really clear that it's a company. And when you're just scrolling on the For You page, you see this funny person doing something funny. Okay, but that's not really going to help you attract more clients.
And where should you direct people? Should you just get them on the TikTok messaging functionality? Should you direct them to a different website? What do you think actually works better?
I think if you're able to just go into the website, like if you're able to put your website on your TikTok page or your Instagram page or wherever, a social media platform, I think that works best. I see a lot of companies also start using Linktree. I think that was something that creators were using at first to kind of showcase their other social media platforms. But now companies are doing that as well. So it's also an option if you want to have more like links to maybe an external blog or maybe to your LinkedIn page, and just goes a bit further.
What do you think about AI generated content? Like there's always like these crazy videos you can do with just AI pictures and animations and stuff like that. Do you think that works or not so much? Or not yet?
I think at this point it still works because people are still kind of intrigued by it. I think there's gonna be a time where, listen, right now we're seeing the worst that AI can do. So it's still interesting to look at because like just recently I saw a bunny who was like rolling dough pretending to be in a bakery, and I'm just like, what am I looking at? So obviously I'm gonna keep watching because I need to know if he's actually able to put the bread in the oven. But that's something that I think not always works for a company. Like you take kind of this absurd chaos element, and if you're able to twist it into something that actually works for you and for your industry and for what you represent, yes, absolutely. But if it just stays absurd and chaotic, I don't think you should use it. I know that TikTok right now also came out with Symphony, where you're able to kind of record yourself and reuse the same video to talk in different languages, to be able to, like my old boss was like speaking in Chinese on LinkedIn. I was like, huh? I didn't know she could do that. But at the same time, it's just a little creepy for me. So I think it's still best to just use actual people to get certain messages across. But it definitely gives an extra element of, just being interesting. Yeah, Symphony. Yeah, TikTok Symphony.
Okay, interesting.
It's for free as well. So I think you can, if you go into CapCut, you're able to try it out, and you're going to be able to use Symphony as well. It's quite interesting.
Interesting. I can now speak multiple languages. Well, I can already speak multiple languages, but even more languages. Okay, that's quite interesting. I wonder how I'm going to sound in Chinese or Mandarin. Yeah, that should be very cool. Which actually brings me to the next question, which is, how do you get a good sense, if you're just starting out, of who your audience actually is? Because we now have, like you said, the ability to create videos with AI, ability to create content in multiple languages. How do we narrow down our audience and actually make content just for them?
It's a good question, and I think it's a question that not enough people ask themselves. So it's really good that you're putting that out there. It's a tough one because you have to really try to think who you're making your product or service for. Really, I think there's such a big benefit into a marketing kind of technique that I haven't used in so long, but I remember using it like when I was working at other companies, to have your personas ready. Like, who are your different personas, right? Like, it's something that we had in marketing classes in like when I was 18 or something. That's like, I was working for a pet food company. So then you have like, okay, the single 20-something girl that has like a cat or a dog. How is she gonna treat? Like, is she gonna buy the product? Yes, because it's a bit more expensive and it has fun colors. And it's like the healthiest option on the market. Like, yes, she's gonna buy it. It's like the person who's putting their dog outside for the day and they don't really care about it, just like a guard dog. They're probably not gonna be in your demographic, even though they do have pets. But you can't just be like everyone that has a pet. So that's something that I think personally a lot more people have to kind of think through. And that probably takes you like together with your partners like a week to really agree on who your personas are. And you probably still have to talk to an agency to kind of walk you through everything and ask you some very hard-hitting questions, because you're obviously going to believe that your product is the best for everyone, but that's just not the case sometimes. Sorry.
And it's always a bit of a wake-up call, isn't it? Like,
A little, yeah.
who is this, targeting? Everyone. Everyone's going to buy this. No. Not even Coca-Cola can sell to everyone. There's still people who don't drink it. So, yeah.
It's pretty funny because I used to be able to be a little mean to my clients when I was working at TikTok, in the sense that I could really ask them like, hey, you just posted a picture on TikTok, a picture with no sound and just 1 + 1 free of like very blurry shoes. Be honest, would you buy this yourself? And then they would be like, okay, I guess not. And now with the clients that I have now, obviously, I can't just be mean. So I have to be like, hey, that's great, buddy. Let's try to do this a bit differently next time.
But then, I mean, if you're posting pictures on TikTok and a single picture, that is a complete marketing failure, isn't it? I mean, at least a carousel with some funky music, right?
I think carousels were invented because of those people that decided pictures were a good idea on TikTok. And TikTok was just like, you know what? We got you. It's okay. You don't have to try harder anymore. Carousels are okay. Like, they can still be fun, but they can also be super boring. Like, if you just post very bad product pictures, like, I'm sorry, no one's gonna go through your catalog. They have to still be telling a story. They have to be interesting. But it's fun that now people can kind of be lazier in their content creation.
An interesting question is, or at least for me, let's say you have built a TikTok account, you posted multiple things, but they've all been an absolute disaster. You have more than 100 posts, 200 posts, and none of them actually got more than 50 views each or something like that. Should you delete that account, create a new one, or can you actually start posting better content and then ideally it will go not viral, but you get more views just because of the quality?
Well, the first thing that you have to ask yourself is what kind of content were you posting? And are you going to do things differently? Are you going to use the best performing ones of your old account? I would first always try to work with your existing account, simply because you're going to already have some people that are following you there, or I hope. And then hopefully you're going to be able to re-engage them and get more views and new people coming in as well through that. But it is the case that TikTok would post, would boost or promote newer accounts. That's something that I've noticed many times already, that like if you start a new account, for me myself as well now, like I have my own existing account, my personal one that I'm not really active on at all. But when I would try to be active for a while, it would just not really be that popular because I was already on TikTok for the past year. But now with my agency, I noticed that I'm having like 2K views for the first 2 videos, and they're not really that good, to be honest with you. Like, I know I can do much better, but I'm just like, kind of preoccupied as well with other things and other clients. But yeah, it's weird. I don't know why they do it. I think they just want to kind of motivate you to keep creating content. But then obviously it's really sad when you're already having an existing profile, you're getting less of the motivation that you might need.
Interesting. And how do you balance between doing lives and actually creating content? Because I think lives also serve as a way to, I guess, boost your rankings, right? So the more lives you do, the higher the likelihood of actually people following it. Even though sometimes they're absolutely horrible. I avoid going on the live section because it's either, someone DJing or someone talking complete horrible things about something that they know nothing about.
Yeah, I always get the same lives, but recently I found a live with Kermit the Frog who's going through a heartbreak, and that's definitely one of the most interesting ones I've seen. You can keep all of the weird things in, by the way. Yeah, I think live, you can only go live if you have 1,000 followers on TikTok, okay. I believe.
Interesting.
I don't know how it works on Instagram and like Facebook and YouTube. I would have to check that again, how many followers you need for that. But on TikTok, I'm quite certain that it's from 1,000 followers onwards. I would say it's good if you have something interesting to do. Like if you're just talking as a creator, you can do everything, right? I see people that are trying to pop popcorn with their like hair utensils. But if you're really like talking about business, then obviously you want to make sure that you're talking about your business, or you starting your business, or like I'm doing admin, come do admin with me, and you're playing like just fun music or something, or you're answering the questions, you're just hanging out. It can be a lot of things, and it can kind of boost the feeling of community, I think. And that's the most important thing that you can have, especially as a startup, that you're able to kind of create a community for you and your potential clients.
Interesting, because that's I think that's always something that people kind of struggle with, which is finding the early adopters, the people who love your product, the people who talk raving about it, and actually they're going to get you even more clients. And that's kind of what you want to be, right? Or where you want to be, in the sense that it's organic content. It's people loving your product, talking about your product, and that's the sweet spot.
It's the best when like you start getting reviews, like all of a sudden you're tagged in a video and you're just like, oh, what's happening? And then you realize that it's actually someone who's just raving about your product. You're like, oh, great. That's what you want. That's the best thing.
It reminds me, many years ago, there was this whole video ads, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC, and they would compare the two types of users. And what was interesting was that, I don't know if you recall those, what was interesting was that the Mac users were such strong brand ambassadors. Like they really, really loved the products. When it came to PCs, no one ever said, oh, check out my new Lenovo, or check out my new Asus, or my HP.
How do you know I'm on a Lenovo?
But yeah, exactly. But the point is, no one ever like bragged to their friends, "Ooh, check this out." I think the first time that people started bragging was when the gaming one showed up, Alienware or something like that, and people were like, "Ooh, check this out, latest specs, very good for gaming." But before that, it was like, "Yeah, I got a laptop. It does what it needs to do," and that's kind of it.
I think Apple has a really strong sense of community. It's like Apple, and then you also have, like the Pepsi versus Coca-Cola kind of things. It's really interesting how there's like this cult following around certain brands, because you expect that with people. So even with like Tesla, it's like people that are also a big fan of Musk, probably.
Now, not so much so.
Now maybe, for a while, Musk was kind of the person that was creating Tesla, so it was more quickly that you would say like, okay, he has a cult following because of the person that's behind it. And I feel like with companies like Apple, it's really because of the company and because of what they represent. Or like with Nike, Adidas, I feel like they also have this kind of like, I mean, it's not a fight that they're having, but at the same time, it kind of is, because they're very competitive, and you can tell in the communities as well a lot of times.
It is, and I think they kind of resonate with the way you see yourself in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why you buy a Nike. Well, ultimately, all shoes are the same, but if you buy Nike instead of Adidas, there's a reason why you buy Nike and not Adidas. At least for me, I just like the logo. Just do it. I like that. It's like, exactly. It's kind of who I am. Just do things. I don't worry too much. And even though Adidas make really good shoes, I cannot recall the last years I've ever bought. Like, I haven't bought Adidas for probably the last 20 years. That's
okay.
But just because I associate more with Nike, so yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like the power of association is very strong, especially if you're talking about characteristics that you hope that your ideal audience has. So I think Nike does very well with that. I think Apple does very well with that as well, because they're like, we are innovation, And that really brings in a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm innovation as well.
And the same goes for, is it Coca-Cola sells happiness, right? They don't actually sell soft drinks. And then I guess McDonald's, for example, I think they don't sell happiness, they sell familiarity and the sense of belonging, because regardless of where you go in the world, McDonald's always looks the same. The menu might change, right? But apart from that, it's always the same feeling. Consistency, which is actually something quite important when you're traveling. So
yeah. Especially as well, like Starbucks does kind of the same thing, because they're so big, they're everywhere. It's always kind of the same. So that sense of familiarity and the sense of home is always there.
You kind of feel, okay, this is a safe space, and it's always, same type of coffee, same type of flavors. You can get the grande with extra something. I don't drink coffee, so. But yeah, it's always the same thing. Now, very important, Tessa. If people want to reach out to you as we're nearing the end of the podcast, what's the best way of doing so?
You can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there. Otherwise, you can shoot me an email on tessa@midmarketing.eu. Midmarketing.eu is also my website, so you can check out my portfolio there. You can see what I did. You can see if you like my jokes. If you don't like my personality, then maybe we're not a good fit. But if you are okay with what I've said so far, then we probably are.
Awesome. Sounds good. Tessa, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it so much.
Thank you.
The podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer. This podcast is also sponsored by startupnetworks.co.uk. Startup Networks, it's an online forum where you can find all the resources you need to run your startup, from grants to investors to tips and tricks on how to be successful in your startup. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech.